Welcome back to Right as Rain with Bella and Zira. As always, no, we're catching up a little bit here. We'll go through it. The last time you saw one of these episodes, the Rain had just completed that draw against the Wave. Since then, they went on the road, lost a tough one to the Spirit, a Spirit team that's really finding form of late. Uh, if I remember correctly, they're second in the league table. Yep, second league table. They've
And
won.
clinch playoffs.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, current have the Shield. We'll talk about that. And the Spirit have clinched their spot. After that, the Reign got a tight 1-0 victory over Racing Louisville. That game obviously had to be split into halves because of the medical emergency. Um, that was difficult to see, but thankfully, um, you know, uh, does sound like Savannah DeMello is back home and recovering. Last I was aware. Bella, do you know anything else further? I think that's
No,
all.
that was the last thing that they said, that she was home and that she was recovering. We haven't heard anything about what it was necessarily, or when she might be back. But Beviana certainly seemed hopeful and at least glad that she was able to travel back to Louisville.
Yeah, that was scary and just tough situation all around. Just glad to know again that she's healthy and back home. Rain get the crucial victory in that one in the second half. Who else but just Fishlock to get a winner in the 89th minute. They go on the road to play Kansas City, the behemoth that is the current, right? And outside of maybe some controversial um build up in the 74th minute goal and the Dabinia goal that comes off a penalty, not the worst showing, but tough when you're playing a buzzsaw like Kansas City. And then last night back at Lumen, Bella and I saw the win over North Carolina that, at least for that first half didn't look too great. Um, and then as Laura would say, of course, goals change games. Emery Damas comes in, helps create that own goal with her cross into the box in the general direction of Jordan Heidema, and Maddie Dahlien decides that she is going to get her goal back after having one disallowed earlier in the match. Seattle gets a big victory. They jump up to fourth place in the standings. If they would have lost, they would have fallen down to eighth. North Carolina would have jumped them. Big for a multitude of reasons. If you're wondering why I'm in the dark, I will show you what I showed Bella a minute ago. It is the Kraken Press Bridge here at Climate Pledge Arena. There's a lot going on, so I'm filming this from up here. So if you see flashing lights, I'm gonna record a little disclaimer before this episode goes out because I'm sure there will be flashing lights that if you are sensitive to flashing lights, that this is more than likely going to happen. But yeah, anyway, welcome back, Bella. I guess my general question before we talk about the match, to kind of lump the results since the Wave result. Um, we've done this the last few times we've recorded together, right? It's like, how do you feel about this team after these stretches? I don't know. How do you feel about the Reign now? Because, they play the top two teams in the league. They lose to them by 2-0 results, but, it's not like they got stomped. They're able to get crucial victories against teams below them in the standings to, improve their seeding. And they're still only a point behind Gotham. Gotham has a crazy run of form currently, though, and that's who they'll face this upcoming Sunday. So, uh, I don't know. Where are you at with this club currently? How do you feel about, them as a whole before we get into the nitty-gritty of different things here?
Yeah, I'm sort of in the middle. Like, I don't feel amazing. I don't feel bad. I don't think there's anything to feel overly negative about. Um, I don't think, there are definitely the wins are great. Feel positive about those. I think going against teams like Gotham, sorry, not Gotham, Washington and Kansas City, I think they played them relatively close. When they played Washington, the issue with Washington is they've gotten healthy. They have Trinity Rodman back. Gift Monday is in insane form, had the fastest hat trick from the beginning of a game on Sunday or Saturday um, to help Washington clinch the playoffs. Sofia Cantori, the Italian, is playing brilliantly. Cora Bethune is healthy. Like, I think it's just unfortunate that they sort of had to face Washington when just a lot was starting to come together for them. Um, and they're just a very talented team. And I do think that the offense that Washington showed, where it kind of seemed like, even though the defense that was played wasn't necessarily bad, it seemed like they just sliced right through the defense. And that's the kind of thing I think we've been missing from the Reign offense. That being said, the Reign offense is set up very differently. Laura has said that they are pretty happy to do most of their attacking in transition. Um, that is how the goal against Louisville came. Not it's how Maddie Dahlien's goal came yesterday. And they're pretty happy with that. They had 35% possession yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, and one shot on goal for two goals, which is always fun. Had like 0.23 xG compared to what to too many names. What's the team they were playing? North Carolina's 0.85. Um, so they are winning games the way that they've said from the beginning of the season that they would win games. I remember like Lindy and Dolo talking about it. They are happy to play ugly, play a lot of defense, and then hit teams in transition. It's the same way that they beat Kansas City earlier in the year, one of two teams to beat Kansas City all year. So, it's not always the most fun to watch. It can be a little stressful. I think that's where my sort of middling thoughts and feelings come in is um, you're not watching a Kansas City, you're not watching a Washington Spirit, but they are getting the wins that they need to get from teams around them. Would it have been great to defeat Kansas City at home? Certainly. Has anybody done that this season? No. Like they hadn't been scored on for like 900 minutes until their most recent game where they finally let in a goal. So it's, I think the other thing is this is a team that is still playing without Lynn Biondolo. And I have said this a lot, particularly to my mother, that um, the way Lynn changes a game is irreplaceable. The way that, first of all, she has the ability to stretch a back line unlike any of the forwards on this team. I think Jordan Heidema has some great hold up play, and I do think she's been playing really well, but she's just an entirely different kind of striker. And in reality, Jordan Heidema is not all that much of a striker. She likes to play more as a bit of a 10. Um, but the way Lynn can draw defenders to her and can open up spaces, can stretch the back line to create space for her midfielders like Jess Fishlock to operate is just irreplaceable. And so is her ability to, I mean, she's the one who scored the goal when they beat Kansas City. Like her ability to just find goals out of nowhere, to just get that toe poke when you're in the box. That is something that they have not yet been able to replace. And I don't think you can replace it. There's a reason they went out and traded for her because she is a brilliant player. So I think a lot changes if she is healthy. And another thing I've said is this team is, yes, would love to win this year. Absolutely. But they are looking towards the future. And if shutting Lynn down for the rest of the season makes it so that she's as healthy as possible all of next year for a real serious run, you do that. It's a similar argument to Caitlin Clark, honestly. You shut her down for the rest of the season because maybe think you can win this year, but your priority is the future because you have a lot of young talent on your team. Also, we didn't see Mia Official yesterday. Laura said that, she could have maybe played, and that she had been training after she got that knock at Kansas City, but kind of said that she hadn't really been right all week, and ended up bringing in Ainsley McCammon instead, who actually, I was pleasantly surprised, had a really great game. Got the hockey assist on the goal, on Maddie Dahlien's goal, sent the ball to Sally Menti, who sent the ball to Maddie. Um, so there's still pieces in the attack that this team is missing.
Mm.
And it's not to say that the attackers that they have are playing poorly. Um, but Lynn in particular is just such a game-changing player. So I think any conversation you have about how you feel about the Reign has to acknowledge that they're not necessarily at full strength. They have a lot of depth, and that's really great. And I think the defense in particular, has been playing better, and I've been very impressed by Madison Curry. I thought she had a terrific game yesterday. Um, a lot of tackles, a lot of great combinations along the side, sort of helped with Emery's goal, getting up higher on the field. Um, I was interested that we saw the four back yesterday because we had not seen that in a while. Um, so yeah, I think overall, I feel good. I feel fine. Like, I wouldn't say I feel like I'm a Kansas City fan, but no one but Kansas City fans feel like Kansas City fans. So I think you feel about as good as you can with where the roster is at. And Laura said that historically in this league, if you get 34 points, you qualify for playoffs, and they have 34 points, or maybe 33. I think they have 33. Um, my mistake, 33. So they're very close, and they're going to keep pushing. Of course, she said they're not going to stop at 34. Like, it's not just like, oh, we hit that, we're done. Um, but where they're at is solid, and it needs to be because of the games that they have coming up.
Yeah, it's a few things, of course. Um, Madison Curry's certainly been one of the more fun storylines for me throughout the course of the season. I remember that was like the first move they made, I think, in the off season, with Angel. Did her contract end, or did she ask to be have her contract terminated?
I believe she was a free agent.
Okay, okay. I just remember that happening, and I was like, "Who is like? She seems young. Why? What is happening here?" Right? And obviously, we don't know fully. Well, you might, but we don't know fully what's going on with the California clubs, Bay of Sea, San Diego, Angel City. But Seattle gained from it. They got a young defender who has been pretty. I mean, I think she's. I can look, of course, but then that would require me to close the tab and all that. Anyway, she's played a good amount of the games for the Reign. Um, she's been pretty big for them throughout the course of the season, and felt like correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of filled a role that Sofia Huerta has had in this club when she's here normally. Obviously, she's back now, and it was fun to see them both in the four back last night. But yeah, she's been big. I don't think she necessarily gets talked about enough that I see, at least. Maybe that's happening in circles I don't see, but I don't know. I don't see everything, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, with Lynn, I know you and I talked about this last night. I don't want to put you on the spot per se, but I don't know if I don't think she's outright said it, but do we know what the plan is with Lynn, or is this something that you and I, or one of us, are gonna have to like go to training or ask in the pre-match this week? Because like I don't think for like certain that she's been shut down for the year, but we don't also have a clear timeline, right?
Yeah, I I think we were told that they would shut her down for several weeks, but we're not told how long. We know it's sort of a nagging injury. Um,
And the turf aggravates it. Sorry.
yeah, although that honestly might have been Laura just kind of like trying to skirt around it and not wanting to admit that they were going to shut her down for longer yet. We have no clue if she'll be out for the rest of the season. I don't believe we've gotten any updates on that. I might be going to practice on Wednesday and hopefully able to ask, though, knowing how Laura talks about injuries, I would be surprised if she gave us a straightforward answer.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, we don't know if she's shut down for the season yet. At the same time, there are 4 games left.
Yeah.
So are you bringing her back for the last 2 games? Are you just saving her for playoffs? And at that point, is it then difficult to reintegrate her?
Mm,
We don't really know. I think that there's just a lot unknown about that, at least on the outside. I'm sure the team has a better idea, but we do not know.
yeah. Yeah. Um, it's a good question. I mean, yeah, I like, I think back to earlier. Oh, I'm gonna put the widescreen on so I'm not so dark. I think back to earlier in the season when I think both Laura and Jordan have talked about wanting the attack to be dynamic, unpredictable, so on and so forth. Um, and I mean, if you save her until the playoffs, they certainly could be unpredictable, right? It could be like, oh, all of a sudden you just reintroduce Lynn Biondolo into the mix. How the hell are you going to defend for that? Um, yeah, there's the worry of, wanting to, properly have her integrated. But also, I wonder, she's good enough to, if, I imagine she's good enough to come in and, you know, not necessarily have to worry about that. I don't know. All I say is I understand that, it isn't championship or bust this year, right? I know every year you want to go out and win, right? But knowing that there is something being built here is encouraging while also noting, hey, you're sitting in the 4th seed and you're not outside by much for the 3 seed. I think that's a testament to the way this group has battled, how good they can be. Um, it's exciting. I think you should be excited if you're a fan of the Reign, and if you're in greater sense of things in Seattle, right? So that's a whole other thing. Who covers any of those teams anyway? Um, oh, I did want to ask you though. You talked about Kansas City. You mentioned the Shield. I don't know if you went back and looked at it. I know I texted you about it. I'm pretty sure, but Phoebe was pretty upset after the Kansas City match. They were all kind of upset, um, because Laura mentioned specifically how they had the Shield there ready for them, and the Reign had never been able to celebrate with Shield the night of, and it was less so about Kansas City and more the fact that they'd never been able to do that. Phoebe was I don't even know if you could hear that. Phoebe was very upset and was like, they can have their little party. We'll see who goes deeper in the playoffs. Kansas City Current Blue Sky took that quote and ran with it. They were very amped up. I was like, you can calm down. I was like, whatever, dude. I think it's difficult to judge somebody after, again, these players, as you and I know, they come in. There's a cool down period, sure, but they're still coming off right after playing a match. At least for me, whenever I played and I was pissed off, I that didn't go away for a few hours usually. Um, I don't know. I think it's a little wild to get wildly ramped up about it. Um, but I just thought the quotes like Phoebe, about them. I'm sure there was something said to her. I don't think she gets that ramped up that easily. Um, but I don't know if you saw any of that or had any just thoughts on whether it be the Shield being ready for them and Seattle not necessarily having that in the past because people go, oh, it's been a long time since they won the Shield. No, it hasn't. It was just a few years ago, like, which is funny to think about. I don't know if you've got thoughts on that discourse or those comments that came after Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, the years that the Reign clinched the Shield early enough for there to be some sort of celebration, the investment was simply not the same. They were still playing at Memorial Stadium. The Shield was a glorified dinner plate. Um, they're, to compare then to now is just unfair. It's apples and oranges. It's just not the same. The year that they won the Shield more recently, they they won after like several results didn't go other teams' ways, and then they won the last game of the season. And all of that happened like the same day. And even though there had been rumors that the Shield was at the other place where the team could have clinched, I forget what team it was. I believe that was actually not true, and the Shield wasn't anywhere.
Oh,
But Laura kind of ran with it a little bit and was a little pissed about it. Um, but even then, the the investment from the NWSL wasn't really enough where they're going to have two of them and have them in multiple places and be prepared for that scenario. Um, I'm pretty sure the team still had shirts. They still like did a lot of celebrating. Um, and the thing is it's exciting for Vlatko. It's his first Shield, and I think Vlatko is a very good coach. We know from his time with the Reign, when he coached, I think, one of the most injured teams in history, and got them to the playoffs, and came very close to defeating a pretty unbeatable North Carolina team. Um, I still remember that Ifioma on him on goal to to tie it up late, but um, I just think sometimes in sports, players and coaches like to make more of things than they are to to hype things up, to get some emotion out of it. I mean, as much as Kansas City were celebrating, even they and Vlatko were like, the job is not done. We want to win a championship. No one's really going to remember we won the Shield if we don't win the championship. Like, as much as it was exciting and it is, it's particularly historic that they won the Shield as early as they did, it's, I don't think Kansas City disrespected the Reign in any way. I think I think the Reign were frustrated because they knew how they had played against Kansas City previously, and they wanted to have a better outing and prevent them from Vera, we're gonna stop that. You're being nasty. You're being nasty. Um, and they wanted to spoil their party and they didn't get to. Um, I don't think they played poorly against Kansas City and really, the penalty was not the wrong call, but it is unfortunate. It is one of those things where like it feels like the rules around what awards the penalty kick are just kind of like ugh, because the handball is like in the very corner of the box. Like in no situation is that a shot on goal. It doesn't feel fair, right? Like even though that is the rule, it feels unfair. It feels like you're hard done by, but it is technically the rule and it's unfortunate. So, I think whatever works to get them worked up, to get them amped up, to get them to play their best, if that's what works for them, great. And we know Phoebe is someone who is very hard on herself. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that played into her particular emotion. And then, what a social media team does is rarely related to the team directly. I'm sure someone on their social media team saw it and was like, let's run with it. Let's use this, try to get engagement. That just is what social media is. Um, it's never really disrespect to players. It's playing the social media game. It is what it is. Um, so, we know that they were upset. Even yesterday, Laura was like, started talking about the Kansas City game and it was like, don't even get me started on that. It was like, well, we didn't ask, but okay. Um, so I think just whatever works to get them playing their best, so be it. Do whatever you need. Um, and until they, unless they have to face Kansas City in the playoffs, I'd kind of ignore it until then, to be honest. You can play them better. It's tough to play them at home in particular. And you just got to keep going. And I think that's kind of what they did yesterday. They just were like, all right, next game we have to do this one. We have to win this one. You can't get back points you've dropped before. Um, so yeah,
I will go back and say, and also if they keep doing this intro video that you keep seeing flashing, if the sound is loud, let me know. Because
I
right as
can't
you're
hear it.
saying, we're
Otherwise, I
gonna
would have
not
said
do
something.
that. It lined up with we're gonna not do that. And I was like, oh shit. I will say I might have goofed. I more so meant like I don't know if you saw the current post something, then that's news to me. But I meant like Kansas City fans were quoting the quote on Blue Sky and like, oh, this is gonna bite her in the ass, or
Oh, I
they're
missed
a little
that.
bit up about it. And I'm like, sure, whatever. But I that's
That's
where I
still
was
just
like,
like fans, the social media game. It is what it is. People
yeah,
say all sorts of stuff on social media, and it's always more dramatic or inflammatory than it would be in person.
oh,
Like
for
no one's
sure.
going up to Phoebe and saying that in
Yeah.
person. They're just
No.
they're this is the way that they find to support their team. And I'm sure, Reign fans have done it in the past too. All fans of all teams. It's just that Kansas City is the best team right now. So they've got a little bit behind them to make them extra confident in what they're saying.
Yeah. No. Okay, well, let's see where we're at here. So you just take stock of this. You're third in the table. Sorry, fourth in the table. I got ahead of myself. You're staring down the barrel of Gotham, who's won like they haven't lost in I think 9 matches. They've won all but one in their last 14. I was looking at this last night. I mean, from what you know, because you're like the NWSL brain that I'm aware of. If I have a question, I go to Bella. See, this is getting annoying. Like, what are we doing here? It looks
I'm
like I
just
just
not
got
even
caught
looking at
with
you
something.
anymore, to be honest.
That's fair. Um, how do you beat Gotham? I mean, like, it is funny to know some of the ex-Reign favorites that are over there, like Rose, like Emily Sonnet, you know, Jalen Howell's over there. It was interesting, and I don't remember when this quote was, but I do remember seeing a quote from Howell saying, "Hey, our offense needs to be better. We will be better." Um, and then I look up and I look at where they're at. I'm like, what the hell, man? Like, I think you guys are doing all right. I'm sure that was from a little bit ago, but I don't know. Like, how do you look at Sunday's match against Gotham?
I think it'll be pretty similar to all their other matches, to be honest. I think they'll probably sit deep and give a lot of possession to Gotham and try to hit them on the counterattack. Um, what has worked. I mean, the problem is Gotham is another team that is now healthy. Um, they have Rosabelle healthy. They added Jaden Shaw for 1.25 million. Midge Purse is healthy. Esther has just been playing at an unreal level. I'm sorry, Esther. Just there's they've got a lot of attacking threats, and that is the biggest issue. Um, I think, I'll be curious to see if we are back to the five back, just because of the amount of attacking talent that Gotham has. I think with North Carolina, there was a focus on, mucking up the midfield and not letting them sort of play their game through the midfield. And with Gotham, it's a little similar, except they have far more straight up attacking threats than North Carolina did. Um, and things that have worked well for them are sort of a lot of close interplay, quick passes, particularly between players like Rose Lavelle and Jaden Shaw. And I think the defense will need to be pretty tight to shut that down. You cannot give Gotham a lot of space to play in. You simply can't. Um, and you also just have to not make mistakes. Um, it sounds simple, but one of Esther's most recent goals was basically just like a bad back pass that went straight to her. And then she just like scored on an open net. Like you cannot, I think they only won that game 2-0. Like it wasn't even like the team that they were against had played particularly badly, but you cannot afford to make those kinds of mistakes because the players that they have absolutely 7,000% will punish you. You definitely have to mark a stare in the box very tightly. But then again, you're going to have to watch very carefully for the runs from those midfielders. I know Jalen Howell had a goal somewhat recently. Um, a ball came out sort of just outside the penalty area. She hit it on the volley and, scored from outside the box. And those midfield players will make those late runs in. They will take those shots, and they are very capable of hitting them. Um, so it's going to have to be a very tight defensive performance. Um, and you have to, like I said, just hit them in transition. It would be a great game to have Lynn back. I doubt that will be the case. Um, but because the issue is Gotham also has some speed. Midge Purse is very fast. They have other players. They have Jay-Z still. Like they just even their subs are at a caliber that most teams attacking subs are not. And it will be very difficult to beat them. And because I can't remember the last time they were beaten, I can't even say like this is how you beat them. Um, one thing that could play in Seattle's favor is that um, Gotham are in the competition that I'm forgetting the name of. Is it CONCACAF Champions Cup? Someone might want
The
to.
CONCACAF W Champions Cup.
Okay, I was so
And they
close.
play Washington, which is, I mean, that should be a good match all in
Yeah,
like
so
in its own
it'll
right.
be interesting to see how much they are rotating for that. Are their players a little tired? That could play in Seattle's favor. It could not because, like I said, they have a very deep squad, um, and they rotate a decent amount. So, um, I do think that they were like the first game of the season, weren't they, for us?
Yes. Yep. The 1-1 draw.
Yeah. So like, and if I'm not mistaken, it was a close game. They did not have all of the talent that they have now. Um, they had a few less pieces. Um, but also I do think Gotham's defense at times can have holes. Um, there was that Emily Sonnet own goal where she kind of just like literally passed it into
Yeah.
her own net, which was kind of funny. Reign legend. Um, do miss having her here. But so it's not like you can't score on Gotham. Like you absolutely can. And I think the biggest thing is going to be keeping them off the score sheet because they're going to um, create a lot of chances and they're not going to be shy about it. Um, it's not one where I'm like automatically like, oh, it's a loss, throw it away. Um, but it is one where I'm almost like, you get a tie, you're good. Like I not that the other teams that they have to face are easy. Like I'm a little worried about the Utah game with how well Utah has been playing. Orlando like finally got a win after 8 winless. Like you are facing resurgent teams. Bay FC probably being the least resurgent of them,
Hmm.
but I do think that we're not going to see anything wildly different than um, than we've seen before. I do think that a trend we've seen, or at least heard about from Laura, is feeling like when they drop too deep, they are giving the opponent too many chances and needing to push just a little higher up, still kind of sitting in like a mid block almost, not, high pressing or anything, but not being afraid of confrontation and not sitting super, super deep. So I do think that how the team starts will be important because if you let Gotham have
Hmm.
a lot of chances early, you're going to let them build their confidence, let them potentially get one by you. So you need to be aggressive enough at the start that you aren't just letting them have chance after chance. I think, I mean, she said it just after the game yesterday. Like, she had felt that they were just a little too far back. It was, I think, a similar thing with Angel City. Like often we've just heard, like in the first half, where they're a little too far back. In the second, they change their pressing a little bit. They go just a little bit further up, and then they're creating more chances. They're, limiting the other team more. So, where their line of confrontation is, I think will be um, important and influential.
It'll be interesting. I mean, it's just this run has all like after the Euros was always something I was looking at with, playing Kansas City and then playing the Wave. Louisville's in there, yes, but then playing the Spirit and the current, like playing those three teams, uh, all in that stretch. I was like, wow, this is not ideal. Um, but again, I keep going back to being encouraged fully by I, being encouraged fully by
I can't hear
them.
whatever it is that's happening there now. I don't know who that woman
Oh,
is.
that's Angelica Salem.
Oh,
Um,
Angelica.
yeah, just being happy with where they're at right now in a year where, as you mentioned, it's not championship or bust. So, um, yeah, I mean, I feel like we got in here a little quicker than I thought we'd get to this point, but I don't know. It's interesting. Just there are the little things that I think about, right? Like Emery Adamas continues to be like, oh no, what I did want to look at while acknowledging Emery and her coming and bring instant impact, it feels like for a while it was this way. And I included the goal against the Courage last year in the Megan Rapinoe match, even though it wasn't credited to her. I understand it. I don't like it. I don't have to like it. Is that a lot of her, like all of her goals at one point early in the season had come in the 60th minute or later. I was like, she would just come in and be late and clutch. She comes in and impacts the game. And, again, last night, her substitution was in the 66th minute, if I remember correctly,
Something like
normal
that.
Laura-ish time.
Yeah.
Um, but Maddie Dahlien and how they've used her, right? We've seen her in the five back, seen her defend quite a bit. And don't get me wrong, she's done that. But like seeing her play up, seeing her run at people, seeing her, she talked about it in her answers last night about going end line, going inside. Like,
Yes, because I specifically asked her about it. Thank you very much.
yes, I know. Probably gonna include the clip if my lazy ass remembers. Um, but like, she's just so damn fun to watch and should be like, I'm not saying they're all like amazing talents, right? Or like top of the world talent. There's a lot of good there at the forward position though, but it's just like having to pick because you want Maddie Dahlien on there. Would love to get me official more involved. Jordan Heidem has certainly worked to earn her spot, creating some disturbance in front of the net. I feel like I'm talking about hockey now. You've got Lynn Biondolo, who hasn't been here for a good amount of the year. Like, I don't know. Just further on Dahlien, like how have what did you think about her playing more up top and just your thoughts on her year so far, knowing that there are still the games to go and hopefully the rest of the playoffs?
Yeah, I think after a very impressive start to the year, she's had a little up and down. Okay, zero wants belly rubs. Um, so this is the position that I'm in, I think, for the next 20 minutes. But I I don't love her in the five back. I do think she played there mostly before Sophia was back. Um, kind of as a necessity. I had mentioned this in the press box when North Carolina scored their goal. Part of the reason Ryan Williams was able to get the cross off was because Maddie Dahlien was not tracking back well enough to get pressure on the cross. And Maddie even mentioned it post game. She was like, "Yeah, I had difficulty." She said defending her in the first half. I think she had a little bit of difficulty at the beginning of the first half, just when that goal was scored. And fair, you get tired. Um, but I think I think her attacking decision making has improved, and I think that was what really impressed me yesterday. Um, because, as I had asked her about, and you mentioned the goal that was called back, she cut to the outside of the defender and, went end line and took her shot from there. The goal that actually counted, she cut inside and then took her shot sort of from the middle of the box. And she talked about, you know, very consciously trying to add an element of what's the word I'm looking for? Of surprise or differentiation. I forget the actual word she used. Variety. Just, having it be so that players aren't expecting her to go end line every single time. And, you know, I will say I was sitting in the press box when she cut inside before the goal, and I was like, "You had the space to go end line. Why didn't you go end line?" And then she scored, and I was like, "Oh well, I should shut up." Um, so like I think her decision making was really good. The other thing about the goal is, I said that, the goalkeeper should have gotten it. At the same time, shooting low and hard against tall goalkeepers is a sound strategy. Tall goalkeepers, which North Carolina's is, have a difficult time getting to the ground quick enough. And that's kind of what happened on her goal. And it was a good decision to cut inside. It was a good decision to take the shot like she did. I think it made it harder for it to block. It made it harder for the goalkeeper to save. So I think I think the thing I'm curious about is what formation and with what other players is she best? I do think she's best on the wing, right? I think we know that. I think we know, and Laura knows that you want her with the ball at her feet, driving at a back line. That is how her goals came. It's how some other opportunities came as well. Um, I think she can be a really great outlet down that side too. There were a couple of times in the first half when I thought they didn't do a good enough job of finding her when she was open. Um, and that's not a her issue. That's the team issue. Um, but I don't know. I don't like. Is she best when she can make a cross into someone like Jordan Heidema, or is she best when she's driving and taking her own shot? I think Laura's never going to dissuade her players from shooting because she wants them to be confident in taking the shot, and they should be. Sometimes it feels like maybe they are lacking that presence in the box to cross into. The thing about Heidema is I don't feel like she's always making that run to the 6 yard box where, you know, I mean, she made it for the Emery goal and that was great. But she's often a little bit further back. And oftentimes it's like Jess that we see up there, which is, you know, there at this point in her career, Jess can go wherever the fuck she wants. That is, I believe, what Laura tells her. I'm almost certain of it. But I do think that we've seen a great evolution from her and her decision making, and I think that that is evidenced in the very thoughtful and clinical answer she gave to my question, which was like, I'm looking at their body positioning, I'm looking at the spacing I have, I'm thinking, what did I do last time? What should I do this time? Like, she is very aware of it, and I think she's just going to keep getting better. And I just want to see where I want to figure out what the best, like, I wonder if she has me official in there, if she has me official to cross into, what does that look like? Is that different from Jordan? Because Jordan plays a little lower. If you have, because what we haven't seen is something like Emery and Maddie on the wings and Mia up top. I'm trying to remember if we saw Emery and Maddie on the wings with Lynn up top, but I don't. If we did, it was a while ago. Um, we've definitely seen Emery with Lynn, and we've definitely seen Maddie with Lynn. I'm trying to remember if we've seen all three together. We probably have. Um, so I think at this point it's just kind of finding the best like players for her to combine with. Gosh, my arm hurts so bad right now from that. It was like not comfortable at all. Wait, reposition so you can see Zara. Um, the most important thing. My sleepy girl. I'm getting distracted. Sorry. Um, so yeah, I think she's been really great, and I think that the exciting thing is that she's just going to keep getting better. I don't think we've seen her at her best yet, and that's something Laura says about a lot of the players. Um, but I have liked her combinations with her teammates, the spaces she's getting into, the decisions she's making, and obviously the goal. It's great when you can score a goal. I saw a stat from Opta that no other player in NWSL history has had their first four career goals all be game winners, and Maddie Dahlien is the first. Every single goal she has scored in her rookie year, for her first four goals, have been game winners. Like, that is the sign of a player who is not just scoring when there's a ton of opportunities. She is creating her opportunities. She is finding a finish in tough moments. She is being the difference maker for her team. She doesn't need to, would it be great if she had 8, 10 goals in the season? Sure. But those goals that she has scored have been massive. And I really want to give her credit for that.
It's just I don't know if you can do that either. But I talked to a few people. I feel like early into the season, and they said, she's a rookie, yes, but she's going to make an impact. I was like, okay, we'll see about that. Like just because of the veterans they had on their roster, I think it was before the injury to Ronnie. Um, and so I was like, you kind of got a full group here. Like, how is this rookie going to bring in? And I was wrong about that. But yeah, she's just going to be so fun. I think Jeff in the press box, with his majestic hair, was saying that it's just so fun to watch her get ahead of steam and run at defenders. And yeah, as someone who did defend and not very good, I would be terrified if I had to deal with that sort of speed and someone who's basically it's like I know that wasn't what her answer meant, but basically changing up how she attacks defenders for fun, like that's terrifying. I hate that. Um, if I would have had to deal with it, that is. I'm just like, hey man, can you just go one way or the other? Can we deal with this somehow? So yeah, I
Her
mean, I
answer was always
guess.
also very like, it sounded like something that she has talked to coaches about. You know what I
Mm,
mean? It was like, I've talked to the coaches, and these are the things that we've said I should look at to affect my decisions. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, I just do one or the other. Like, it was, I'm looking at these very specific things and how they could benefit me. And that is how I'm making my decision. Oh, the cat's coming.
I was like,
Ollie,
what are you talking about?
Ollie, you
Zira
want to make an
looks
appearance?
over this conversation.
Ollie, come here. Okay, he's
This is
doing
what
cat
real
thing where he
podcasting
pretends like
is,
he doesn't love
folks.
me.
Well, um, yeah, I mean, as Ali decides whether or not there will be involvement of a cat on this show. Um, yeah, I guess we'll look here. Sunday is when the Reign will take on Gotham. That is a 1 o'clock start time at Sports Illustrated Stadium. I hate that. Sunday, October 5th, 1 o'clock start time. Amazon Prime, Fubo TV, and Paramount Plus, according to FootMob, is where this match will be at. For viewing purposes. Um, it's a big match, big weekend for the city. A lot of different games going on this upcoming weekend. That's getting screenshot. Thank you very much. Um, yeah, I guess Bella, as we get towards the end here, is there anything else rain related you wanted to mention before we get out of here and let you do more of that?
More of getting distracted by my pets instead of doing my homework. Yes. I two things I wanted to mention. Sam Meza continues to be incredible, and the amount of tackles she put in yesterday, and the amount of tracking back she did, despite how small she is, Absolutely insane. And I think it's gotten easy to not notice her contributions as much because they're further back on the field and because they're not always, attacking. Um, but I think the defense is not as good as it is without her. And I just think she has been, excuse me, um, so insanely consistent. And I just don't know how she doesn't get tired because she runs so much and she plays so many full 90s. And I'm just like, how are you not absolutely exhausted? Like, what is actually wrong with you? What steroids are you taking? Can I have them? Not saying she's doing that, to be very clear. I'm sure she is 100% clean. Um, the other thing is I was pleasantly surprised by Coco Mondesir yesterday. Um, I had been a little confused by her starting so many games in a row, especially with the form that Emery had been in. And so it didn't make a ton of sense to me that Emery had been benched. And in the previous games that Coco had started, I thought that she was dispossessed quite often. And yesterday, I thought that one, she wasn't really dispossessed much, if at all. And two, she won a lot of possession back. She did a ton of tracking back. And, I had asked Laura about why she started her. And the answer was pretty much what I thought, which was likes her physical hold up play, but also her ability to break up play in the midfield. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw her play against Gotham for that reason. Um, because, like I mentioned, North Carolina's midfield is very important to how they play. And the same is true for Gotham. And Mondesir was just in there putting in tackles, making things difficult. And she also had, some good little combinations. I think sometimes when she receives the ball, her initial touch is a little too far from her. But then when she has the ball at her feet, she has some really great technical ability and a really good physical presence about her to keep any defender who's trying to go after her off the ball that she has at her feet. And we saw Coco struggle a bit when she first signed after in the summer last year, and I think she still struggled at times this year. But I do think that yesterday, even though the goals came after she was subbed off, I do think it's one of the better performances we've seen from her in terms of her defensive work rate and her ability to muck things up in midfield and hold up the ball for her teammates. So I did want to shout her out for that.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. I'm just like, because we've wanted to see uh Coco be able to, I don't know, contribute more doesn't sound right, but just maybe see a bigger role than just coming in late and helping kill off a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I
Um,
don't think we've seen her full potential yet either. I think she's
no,
another one where the
no,
where the ceiling is still a ways away.
yeah. So
Totally agrees.
that that was
That's what that face means.
yeah. Zira doesn't care. Zira's like uninterested in this
Zero
conversation.
sleepy. Hello, sleepy
She's like, "Can
Zero.
you guys stop talking about me right now?"
Hi. Oh, big yawn.
There you go. So yeah, until we
Yawn,
see
yawn.
it is just I wish you could hear some of this stuff.
I
Uh
don't.
yeah, that's fair. Until we see you next time. Big match. We're getting towards the end of the season. It is nice though that after this match against Gotham, you've got back-to-back home matches. So like
Oh,
instead
yay.
of doing the home away, home away little sachet there, it
But
was
then their
nice to
last
have
game
I
is
don't
away.
yeah, don't like that either, but
Yeah.
whatever. What are you gonna do?
At
I just
Orlando.
who has again, I understand that they won their last match, but they've really sort of like
Oh yeah,
slid.
they've fallen off for sure. It doesn't help that Barbara Banda is out for the season. I mean, that's just rough.
Yeah. So, yeah, what? Oh, Bay FC and Utah. Like, anyway, so we see you
We'll
next
talk
week.
about those
Th-
later.
yeah, take care of yourself. Be well. Do whatever you can to make today a great day. Ollie looks pissed.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch all the away games for Seattle Reign FC this year?
Away games. Well, since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See y'all here.